Thank you. I'm so honored to be here and share my research with you. So, my title is Mumming as Documented and Digitized in Ireland. Mumming is a costumed house visiting tradition where death and resurrection is performed in costume and disguise. Despite numerous studies on the topic of mumming in Ireland, I'm the first scholar to make use of all available material collected and housed in the archives. Other contemporary scholars have done field work with particular groups of mummers, but neglected the archives for their historical data. In the first part of my dissertation, I bring together 5 archival collections. The most substantial collection is the Schools collection, made digitally available in the last decade. In this talk, I will give an overview of the Irish dramatic tradition of mumming and describe my dissertation project. I will then describe the digitized archives of the 1937 to 38 Schools collection and provide some of my results. From there, I will discuss the 2001 Room to Rhyme collection, whose video recordings I helped digitize. I will focus on the most widely documented county in both collections, Donegal. Comparing the Room to Rhyme data with the results from the Schools collection gives us insight into the continuity, change, and unique features of Donegal mumming in the last century. I argue that digitization of archives allows for expanded access for researchers, providing unprecedented glimpses into the history of a tradition. First, I will provide you some information on what a mummer's play is. The mummer's play is performed typically 3 to 4 weeks before Christmas. The disguised and costumed characters vary by region and village, and while there are sets of classic characters like St. George and St. Patrick, the tradition can adopt topical figures into the play. They have a climax where the play has swashbuckling combatants perform a sword fight where one of the champions is slain. The quack doctor arrives to revive the dead, at which point he rhymes off his medicines and magical cures in a humorous way. The dramatic action of the play resolves with the rising of the dead. The performance concludes with a playful request for money by more costumed characters. The play is usually followed by music, song, and dancing with the audience before the performers process out of the room and onto the next house or pub. A visit by the mummers is thought to bring luck to the audience. The proceeds were often used to hold a community dance after the holiday season. Mumming, interestingly enough, being a tradition of death and resurrection, has undergone many revivals. My dissertation, The Tradition of Mumming in Ireland and with the Armagh Rhymers, took me to Ireland for 9 months, 3 of which I spent in the archives in 2021. I spent 1 month prior to my travels using the digitized Schools collection. My dissertation looks back on the last 100 years to demonstrate the rise and fall of mumming, zooming in on a 1970s revival group that kept the tradition going for local and global rituals over 50 years. The first part of my dissertation is devoted entirely to the study of archival data available on mumming. I intend to dedicate the second half of my dissertation on my fieldwork with the Armagh Rhymers pictured here, an innovative performance collective who is famous for their ritual dramas bringing school children of different faiths together during the Troubles. In part 1, I look at 5 archival collections, the most important of which I've yet to visit because it was closed during the pandemic. The Alan Gailey Fieldwork Collection in the Ulster Folk Museum will give me insight into mumming in the county of Armagh in the 1960s. While there is some evidence of mumming in every county, the St. Stephen's Day questionnaire from 1946, housed in the NFC, tells us that mumming was not prevalent everywhere in Ireland, being largely absent from Munster. Mumming is clearly an import from England and Scotland, which has been adopted and adapted into Irish society. The Schools collection and Dúchas.id. Systematic ethnographic studies of mumming in Ireland only began in the 20th century with the formation of the Irish Folklore Commission in 1935, whose archives we are celebrating at this conference. In collaboration with the Department of Education, the Irish Folklore Commission spearheaded a folklore collection initiative in 1937 to 38, known as the Schools Scheme or the Schools Collection. The Schools Collection, assembled by school children and their teachers, throughout the 26 counties of the Republic of Ireland, did not explicitly direct its collectors to inquire about mumming traditions, but references to mumming appear in descriptions of festivals and customs. Teachers who agreed to be part of the national scheme expected their students to return to class with handwritten copybook pages describing local folklore. The best copybooks were preserved in volumes by each school, now housed in the National Folklore Collection here at UCD. Many of these volumes were made digitally available in the last decade on digitized. The students solicited information according to 55 topics provided, and these descriptions are recorded under headings. Children approach their elders in their family and in their neighborhood, so it is likely that many of the responses report on mumming practices prior to 1937 or 38. Most mumming entries were under the category of festivals and customs, where the prompt queries about related traditions such as the Wren Boys, another house visiting tradition native to Ireland. Here we can see the prompt for Wren Boys asking about processions and money being collected, so this would remind one of the mumming tradition. The school's collection was made available on digitized by the team at the NFC and Dublin City University. The amazing thing about the collections on digitized is that they are text searchable. In the spirit of group work, known in Irish as mihel, the collection solicits transcribers from the public domain to type out the handwritten photographed pages. The pages are organized by county, giving information on the name of the informant, the school, and the teacher. When folklorist Kevin Danaher was writing about mumming in Ireland, the school's collection had yet to be indexed or digitized, making it nearly impossible to discover anything on the topic of mumming. Indexing only began when the digitization effort began, when pages from the bound volumes were scanned and entered into the platform on digitized. I searched the online school's collection for the keywords mummers, mumming, and rhymers, another term for mumming in the north. I found 217 entries, most of which came from Donegal. I surveyed the entries according to their name for the tradition, the time period when they performed, the demographics of the performers, the costumes and the props, the musical instruments played, the characters in the play, the entertainment following the play, the remuneration for the performance, and how the financial proceeds were used. Some entries were more developed than others, and some provided information on each point of interest. I organized my data in the spreadsheet as pictured here. Just as with the work of Henry Glassey's All Silver and No Brass and Irish Christmas Mumming, and Emily Lyle's Galatians Remembered, mumming lives in the memories of those who performed and witnessed it. Historical archives preserve memories for future repurposing. Removed from their original context, archival materials are traces of performances, sometimes based on fragmentary memories. Anthropologist David Zeitlin argues that archival sources are liminal and that they are in the boundary between memory and forgetting. What gets remembered and forgotten is intriguing in itself, as often only the most dramatic performances seem worth recording. Personal memories captured in solicitations and interviews are creative reconstructions of autobiographical memory, fluid representations of past ritual events. It is important to remember that the memories preserved in archives represent only a handful of tens of thousands of performances taking place across Ireland in the last century that were never recorded. Let's move now to a recent archival collection, the 2001 Room to Rhyme project, a cross-border, cross-community research project based in Northern Ireland and the surrounding regions, spearheaded by the National Folklore Collection at UCD. In Room to Rhyme, an Irish Christmas mumming in transition, archivist Krista McCarthy explains that the goal of the Room to Rhyme project was to collect new data on mumming in Ireland using Alan Gailey's study in 1966 as a basis for the questionnaire. In addition to questionnaires, McCarthy performed ethnographic fieldwork with around a dozen active mummers groups, interviewing performers and also filming performances. He collected 41 performances on video, providing insights into the use of space, the procession to the performance venues, the costumes and props, the rhymes, dancing and tunes played, and audience interactions, information not available in the school's collection. The films were recorded on camcorder and cassette tape, meaning that the records were not digitized. While working in the NFC in 2001, I watched each video and digitized them using iMovie software. From the 6 videos that I preserved digitally, I wrote in detail about the sequence of events in the performance and the general aesthetics. There are several insights into continuity and change that we can learn when we compare the school's collection data with the room to rhyme data. As one would expect, access to materials drastically changed from the 1930s to 2001. While in the 30s, people would wear old tattered clothing, inside-out clothing, or cross-dress clothing, people in the 2000s would often buy plastic Halloween masks or props to suit their individual characters. Store-bought items replaced everyday materials like straw. Jack Straw is the only character that still always uses straw to disguise himself. Despite an upgrade in costume materials, the play has remained structurally and verbally the same. McCarthy explores a World War II themed play that appeared in Donegal for the first time in the late 1940s and then extended into the 2000s. The plays are remarkably conservative over the years, using the same rhymes as decades before. There are several unique features about Donegal mumming that become apparent when we look at the details of Donegal mumming in relation to those of other counties. The characters that appear in the plays in the 1930s and 2001 are relatively the same, aside from a few more recent additions that we learn in the Room to Rhyme collection. Interestingly, Donegal schoolchildren supplied play scripts more than any other county, giving us insight into the characters that performed. There appears several times a character named Galoshan, who appears in both the 1930s and 2001. This character is inspired by the Galoshan tradition, Christmas mumming in Scotland. Seasonal labor migration between Scotland and Donegal would be a cause for this character to appear in no other county. It is likely that Irish mumming character Jack Straw appears because of his association with the Straw Boys. The Straw Boys are a native Irish custom where performers in straw conical masks and in straw costumes entertain at weddings. Jack Straw is not found in English tradition and appears to be inspired by Irish Straw Boys. Jack Straw appears 41 times in the school's collection in Donegal, out of 54 plays recorded, and he appears in addition aside along the only essential character, the Doctor. Jack Straw appears in every Donegal Room to Rhyme performance. This means that Jack Straw is almost universally found in a region that remains heavily influenced by Gaelic culture. Donegal retains elements of Gaelic culture in its coastal regions and has more affinity with Protestant culture in the areas that border with Northern Ireland. For these reasons, mumming appears especially popular. Donegal is the only county reportedly having Irish language versions of the play, which were translated from English. We find evidence of this in the school's collection and the Room to Rhyme collection. The play, being English in origin but adapted to Irish society, appeals in Gaeltacht areas as well as areas with more Protestant residents. In the school's collection, we learn that poetry recitation occurred 31 times, with Louth being the most frequent use to use poetry at 6 counts. Including Donegal, other counties follow the play with singing, music, and dancing. Like the school's collection, the Room to Rhyme project sheds light on the memorable and remarkable traces of these ephemeral performances that have appeared throughout Ireland for centuries. The school's collection, being verbal recordings of performances, provides insight into the sentiments associated with the tradition. The videos in the Room to Rhyme collection provide details on the performance that are lost in verbal accounts. Together, they give us a picture of what this tradition looks like and means for the communities that perform it. Thanks to digitization efforts, this information is readily available to researchers, demonstrating the ways that spectacle and ritual live in the memories and communities that keep them alive. Thank you.